James was a married man with 2 kids. He had been with his wife, Emily, for 10 years. But for the past few months, there had been someone else in his life, Olivia. To him, Olivia was an escape, young, exciting, and full of life. She made him feel things he hadn't felt in years. One day, Olivia said, "Let's run away to New York for a few days. Just you and me. No one else." James hesitated at first, but eventually agreed. He told Emily it was a business trip, but his plans were about to fall apart. "You know, I've been thinking, we haven't taken a vacation in a while," Emily said one evening, over dinner. "I'll leave the kids with my mom, and we'll go together." James felt his stomach drop. He tried to stay calm. "Emily, this trip is strictly for work. It would be boring for you." But Emily was determined. "I don't care. I just want to be with you." And so, James found himself traveling to New York with both his wife and his mistress, living 2 lives. After arriving in New York, James checked Emily into the hotel and arranged a separate room for Olivia. His plan was simple: spend the day with Emily, then sneak away to Olivia's room at night. The first day went smoothly. He toured the city with Emily, then spent the night in Olivia's bed. Passionate hours passed, and before dawn, he slipped back into his room with his wife. But something started to change over the next few days. He began noticing strange rashes on his skin, followed by intense itching. At first, he assumed it was an allergic reaction, but when he started feeling a burning sensation while urinating, he realized something was terribly wrong. Panic set in. One night, he called Olivia. "Olivia, I need to ask you something strange. Have you noticed anything different lately?" he asked, his voice tight. There was a pause before she replied. "Actually, I haven't been feeling great either. I went to the doctor, and..." His heart raced. "And what?" he asked, barely able to speak. "I tested positive for an STD," she said quietly. James felt the world collapse around him. The worst consequence. His mind raced. If Olivia had an STD, then he had it too. But worse, it meant Emily was now at risk. He had been intimate with both women in such a short time. The weight of the situation hit him all at once. The next morning, he woke up in a cold sweat. He checked his phone, 3 missed calls from Olivia. His hands trembled as he dialed her back. "We need to talk. You should get tested immediately," she said in a rush. "I already made an appointment," he muttered. Later that day, James went to a clinic in Manhattan. The doctor asked a series of questions, then ran tests. "You'll get your results in a few days," she said. But deep down, James already knew what the answer would be. That night, Emily noticed his strange behavior. "You've been acting distant," she observed, watching him carefully over dinner. "It's just work stress," he replied, forcing a smile. But Emily wasn't convinced. She had noticed him avoiding physical contact, spending more time in the bathroom, and constantly looking distracted. Then something happened that shattered everything. The revelation. James thought he had covered his tracks well, but fate had other plans. One evening, Emily decided to surprise him. She had noticed his stress and thought a romantic night might help. She called the hotel reception to arrange a candlelit dinner in their room. "Hello, I'd like to arrange a special dinner for my husband, James," she said, her voice filled with warmth. The receptionist hesitated. Mr. James? He already has a dinner reservation at our rooftop restaurant. For 2. Emily's heart skipped a beat. "Are you sure?" "Yes, it's under his name. Tonight at 8 p.m., the receptionist confirmed. Her hands shook as she hung up. She had a choice: pretend nothing was wrong and let the night unfold, or go to that restaurant and face the truth. She chose the latter. At exactly 8 p.m., she arrived at the rooftop restaurant. Her heart pounded as she scanned the tables, and then she saw him. James was sitting at a table with Olivia, holding her hand, whispering in her ear. He was laughing in a way Emily hadn't seen in years. She took a deep breath, steeled herself, and walked straight to the table. James looked up and froze, his face drained of color. Olivia immediately pulled her hand away from his. Emily, James started. Save it, James, Emily interrupted, her voice calm but sharp. How long? James stammered, but Olivia spoke first. 6 months. Tears welled up in Emily's eyes, but she refused to cry. I hope it was worth it, she said, her voice icy. Then, without another word, she turned on her heel and walked away. James sat there, paralyzed. He had been caught, and there was no turning back. The fall. Back in their hotel room, Emily packed her bags in silence. James finally found his voice. Emily, please. Let's talk, he begged, his voice trembling. She turned to him, eyes filled with hurt and fury. There's nothing left to talk about. Do you know what the worst part is? It's not even the cheating. It's the fact that you put my health at risk. You had no regard for me. James opened his mouth, then closed it. He had no defense. Emily took a deep breath. When we get back home, I'm filing for divorce, she said firmly. James slumped onto the bed, defeated. His world was crumbling. Olivia, meanwhile, had already packed her things and left the hotel. She realized, in that moment, that she had been nothing more than a distraction for him, a temporary escape from his problems. The consequences. Days later, James received his test results. He had tested positive. His marriage was over. His affair had been exposed. And now, his health was compromised. Sitting alone in his empty hotel room, he finally understood. Sometimes, the biggest punishment isn't losing what you had, it's realizing you never valued it until it was gone. And James had learned that lesson the hard way. This expanded version delves deeper into James' internal conflict, the buildup of tension in his relationships, and the devastating consequences of his actions. It also explores the emotional journeys of Emily and Olivia, making their responses to the situation more intricate.